welcome everyone to the Twilight Network. My name is Liam and it's wonderful to be here with you this morning as we're coming to you from Palawa Land here in Lutruwita, Tasmania. As always, we pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging here on our little island home. If you're in chat, happy to see you today. Feel free to say hello. We're going to do a bit more of a lore-focused video today, but one that I think is really important because I really like Werewolf. Werewolf the Forsaken, as I think I've said a couple of times, is one of these games that I keep coming back to it's just full of so much good stuff. Particularly second edition. Second edition took everything that was good about first edition Forsaken and just ramped it up. So, if anything comes to mind in chat, throw it in. We'll talk about it. As we talk about spirits, auspices, and what it means for werewolves to actually be werewolves, kind of in their own society. Now, pardon me. If you're familiar with Apocalypse, you'll be familiar with there being 5 auspices, 5 phases of the moon, and each one relates to the spirit world and their role within the world differently. Werewolf the Forsaken didn't really change a good thing that they had going. They just went and really kind of ramped it up, gave it a bit more gas. And that's what you get with all of these. All 5 of them relate to the Hisil, the spirit, the shadow, differently. And so it is kind of important we actually talk about the spirit before going too much further. The spirit world is a place of pure and utter sympathy. It is about the sympathetic connections of between what is in reality and what is without. The spirit world takes on these sympathetic connections through essence, through the resonance of something on this side of the gauntlet that divides the two, and what is on this side influences what's on the other. So when we're looking at spirits, we're not looking at creatures that are necessarily wily. We're not looking at creatures that are necessarily like the undead in D&D. They're not brainless, nor are they like the Fae in D&D, which are all tricksy and capricious. Spirits are what they are. They are the representation, a platonic, ephemeral solid of what should come across in the world. A good example of this is in Hobart, where I was born. There are 2 big landmarks. There is the mountain, there is the river. And I'll actually get up a map. Hobart, Tasmania. Okay. Let's clear that. Yes, thank you, Google Maps. Your work is appreciated. Barely. Alright. So here is broadly Hobart. You have the Derwent River here, and that really defines all of the shape of Hobart, particularly in relation to Mount Wellington here. Mount Wellington is, it dominates the skyline of Hobart. Buildings don't reach as high as it, and it kind of overlooks everything. So if we were looking at this from a spirit world perspective, if we were looking at Hobart, what we would be looking at is this river, probably even larger than it is now, taking up more land, because it is the defining feature of Hobart in some ways. And the mountain, Mount Wellington, just here. Oops, we can't do that. As the other defining feature. Yes, kitten, you are a defining feature too. You are a welcome intrusion. So, when we are looking at the spirit world, that sort of stuff is what we're talking about in terms of sympathy, in terms of connection and resonance. They are the locations that have the most impact on the layout of the land. So, they produce the most resonance. Resonance being how important something is, how defining something is. If a forest is the thing, if Sherwood Forest, for example, in England, is the defining thing near Nottingham, Sherwood Forest exists in Nottingham despite the fact that it is nowhere near it in reality. And this is where the human influence comes in, and why humanity is actually a really big problem for the Uratha. Humans add meaning to things. Meaning increases the importance, and meaning increases the resonance. So, how I like to think of that is, as humans import more and more meaning, impact the world more and more. I'm sorry, cat. As human emotion, thought, and speech shifts around, say, a mountain. Using Mount Wellington again, it is the mountain. It doesn't get a name. It is Kunanyi. It is Mount Wellington, but most people will just call it the mountain down in Hobart. Simply invoking the name produces resonance and small elements of essence across the gauntlet. The problem with that is that the more you produce essence in areas, the thicker the gauntlet becomes. The gauntlet is it's kind of like an adaptive sieve in some ways. It thickens to limit the amount of essence that can pass over into the spirit world, so that only the things that really matter come forward. In one game I'm playing right now, we're in LA, and the city is gripped by violence. So the spirit world reflects that because people talk about it. The spirit world is violent. There are spirits of murder everywhere. There are spirits of gang warfare. All sorts of things exist in that sort of setting. Now, how does this relate to werewolves? Werewolves are the walkers in between the spirit and the flesh. They are the ones that sit in this animistic world, and they are they are crafting their own life whilst adhering to the ancient tenets of Father Wolf and Mother Luna through the Oath of the Moon. Or, if you're one of the pure, you're not adhering to those. Instead, you're trying to overwrite them in some way, to destroy the gauntlet, maybe, if you're fire touched. Now, one of the advantages that Uratha have in this fight, the Forsaken have in this fight, is that they can draw upon elements of the moon, which are called the auspices. And so we'll start with full moon and work our way through. If you're in chat, feel free to make a comment, come in and say hi. And yeah. So, let's start off with the Rahu, the warrior's moon. This is the moon of combatants. They do not fight for glory, nor because they're honouring oaths to spirits. Rahu hunt and fight because they are werewolves. They fight because they must. If a wolf must hunt, Rahu are the most obvious of the werewolves, and they are those who focus the most on purity. A bit of a content warning for some of the art in Werewolf. It's a little bloody. We'll just scroll up so you just get that. Of course, this doesn't mean that each Rahu is a frontline warlord, but they are called to be the powerhouse, whether that be in social combat, intellectual combat, physical combat. Rahu excel at being violent and being werewolves. Now, first edition had a book called Signs of the Moon, which talked about these aspects of each of the 5 auspices. So I've pulled some of those out. The first one for Rahu is Berserker, which you can find this sort of stuff in Faces, and how the Rahu kind of takes its form. The Berserker is the one who understands that when something needs killing, they're going to be the ones to do it. When something needs fighting, they're going to be the ones that get it done. They are most likely to fall into Kuruth and use all that the werewolf power has to offer them. Crusaders are the paladins, if you like, of a fight. They are driven by some cause beyond them, whether that be the Oath of the Moon, or whether that be a personal oath or a memory that they are trying to uphold. Next are defenders. These are werewolves that are tanks. They take the punishment, they take the pain, so they can save the rest of the pack something on their hunts. Next is the Oathkeeper. Oathkeepers follow the Oath of the Moon, this mystical pledge, if you like, between the Forsaken and Mother Luna. Rahu who follow this are following the purity of the moon itself and trying to maintain that purity. Just get rid of that. Next is the Tactician. What use is fighting a battle if you haven't ensured victory with the right tactics? That's what the Tactician does. They fight, but they were victorious before the first blow was even thrown. Rahu are monsters, and that's reflected in their gifts of the moon. They're a particular set of auspice gifts that means that they can draw upon huge amounts of power to crush and destroy their enemies. Rahu are fantastic for those who like playing a more fighter-focused archetype, a more martial archetype. They are in some ways very simple, but that simplicity also enables complexity within how you portray them. Next, with the gibbous moon, the dreamer's moon, a Kahaleth. They are the skulls. Glory is their domain, power and pride, the surety of life through reputation and story, even if they die. They are the memory of Luna, hunting not because they must, but because the hunt is right. It is story, and each hunt is an addition to the mythic history of Father Wolf. They are the personification of Father Wolf. And this is Kahaleth's symbol. Of course, not every Kahaleth can understand that. It's not natural to go from being very human to suddenly being a storytelling battle wolf. Most people don't behave that way. But they are crafters, they are builders, whether that be of communities, whether that be of creative endeavours. They are driven by dreams and hopes. And that's reflected in their aspects or their faces. You have dreamers who channel Luna's gifts through visions, through dreams that they trap like they are prey themselves. There are lore keepers, retellers of tribal stories, of stories of the territory, bloodlines, and spirit gossip. There are the mad. You are your mother's savage daughter, driven mad by visions and dreams. You do amazing things. Obviously, this madness is not a representation of real world mental illness and all the stuff that comes along with that. It is a statement of lunacy, of the infection that an alien mind has. Kahaleth are also virtuosos, experts and creatives at the pinnacle of their art through the aid of Luna. They are performers. They are speakers. Those who keep the pack up to date with spirit tongue and speak to the spirits and form a more developed relationship with the Hisil. Finally, there is the War Howler. You're the first wolf into battle, maybe even the first strike. You are a role model to be followed, and you are a braggart about that. Kahaleth are bards, they are skalds, they are storytellers, they are driven by glory. Whereas the Rahu is driven by hunting because they must. The Kahaleth is driven to hunt because what else is worth doing with all of this power? Because of this, Kahaleth are also... Oops, not that way. Some of the more difficult werewolves to get a grip on. They don't like to be kind of held. They're there to tell a story. And they're very social creatures. Unlike Eladoth, who are still social creatures, but they're not there to tell a story. Eladoth are the half moon. They are the walkers in between reality. The half moon is the moon of judgment. Honor is what marks Eladoth. Their world is law, L-A-W, and lore, L-O-R-E. They carve an island of stability into the chaos of the Hisil and Luna's own chaos. They are masters of societies, of social interaction. They know the spirit world is like the human world, an ecosystem of social connections, and they manipulate them. Eladoth are not always comfortable with this. They're not always out there to be manipulative. And this can lead them to a big problem, which is, what is the shadowed half? Half of their moon is hidden. So what half is hidden in the Eladoth? Are they wolf or are they man? Are they spirit? Are they flesh? Are they revealed or are they hidden? These are all important questions for the Eladoth to answer. Their faces are that of the advocate. You speak up for those outside of your structure. You are the devil's advocate, a thorn in everybody's side when it comes to making decisions because you take into account everyone. Maybe you're the boundary keeper. You have mastered harmony itself in all your ways and you sit in balance with everything going with the flow. Maybe you are a envoy. You speak to others, other packs, other spirits, other humans, and you make a stranger an ally, maybe even a friend. Or you're the judge. Whilst the Rahu may be the oath, and the Kahalith can tell the story of the oath, you know it like the back of your hand. You've made it your business to study it and to judge, balance what is right. Or you may be the mastermind of the pack. You're in their head. You direct their emotions and trust towards a goal that everybody will benefit from should you achieve. Eladoth are great. They are fantastic if you want to play a very, very social character. Not social in the same way that a Kahalith is. A Kahalith, imagine them more like a braggart. A Eladoth is social in the way that they are currying favour, they are engaging in bargains, they are getting things onto their side so that they can make it work. This is different to the Ithar, the Spirit Master. They are the Shaman. These are an auspice that is dominated by the Wisdom Renown. They understand that they aren't the top dogs of the territory, but they know that they are an important part of the spiritual ecosystem. They pass information around like essence. Ithar are a very diverse lot. They can be combatants, they can be rite masters, mages, magicians, all sorts of things. Some are actively shaped by a very tormented first change, which is what we see here. Human running away from spirit of death, spirit of hunger, and a pack spirit. All of them understand that their place in the world is small in comparison to what the world is. And this makes them very powerful in some ways. Understanding what they are enables them to be more than that. Ithar are often fetish crafters. They are the artist of the pack that is able to bind spirits into fetishes to unleash their noumena. Or maybe they're an observer. Think David Attenborough, but furry. They are there to watch and catalogue the shadow, never interfering unless it is the right time to do so. Or they're a ritualist. They lead the pack gatherings, and they are masters of rituals that call upon bans and banes of ancient spirits. or you're a spirit hunter, perhaps the most violent embodiment of the Ithal, you use the weaknesses of a spirit against itself, trapping itself, and then killing it quickly and quietly. Another option is a more priestly element. Maybe you're bound to a totem, being its favourite, or maybe you are the most dutiful thing. But the Ithar is the one that builds this relationship across the gauntlet. Even their symbol, the world around them, the gauntlet. Which side is which? Which side is home? For the Ithar, they are probably more at home in the spirit than any other werewolf. This is true especially of the new moon, the Iraka, the rogue, the stalker. When Luna hides her face, the Iraka go out before her, to watch, to strike, and to use darkness as their tool. They are cunning folk, not likely to dive headfirst into battle, but to bait, to harry, or deliver a swift and final blow. Iraka are defined by the violence they enact, which is naturally not very comforting for most people. They don't want to be scouts going into dangerous places or hidden slaughterers. But what the Iraka understands is how to apply the correct pressure in moments to yield the best results, whether that be a claw to the throat, a signature on some paper. All of this is within the Iraka's domain. Iraka have a few faces. You could be an assassin, the one who ends fights with one blow, sometimes even before they begin. The emissary, someone who is more akin to the human world and looks after the wolf bloods within the pack. You could be the fool, the ragamush, if you like, the ever-questioning wanderer, why of all things, never directly causing issue within the pack, but making them think about everything that they are supposed to uphold. You could be the scout, slipping along the periphery of the territory, gaining intelligence and information to warn the pack. Or the thief. It's kind of self-explanatory. You break in, you take what you wish, and Luna didn't see you, so why would anybody else? Each auspice comes with their own gift that they utilize to their best ability in ensuring that their power is utilized best for the pack, best for the oath. There we go, we're out of coffee now. So for those of you in chat, is there one of them that you feel particularly drawn to? We've got about half an hour. We can chat a bit more about the auspices, how they kind of function in a pack, or we can chat more about spirits and how to design a spirit world. Let's see if we can't get some better art as well, because there is some amazing art through the Forsaken book. Okay. There are a couple of things I'll talk about briefly regarding werewolf powers. Because werewolves aren't just blessed with 5 different forms. Um, well, Chronicles of Darkness, particularly Werewolf, has a focus on 3s and 5s. Let's see if I can't. If I don't have a piece of art for the forms. Come on. This will do. It's their inbuilt character sheet. We'll just blow it up a little. There are 5 forms that werewolves get access to. The main one for them is Hishu, the human form. It is human, by and large. You then have Dalu, which is near human. You're starting to get a bit more strength, a bit more stamina. You are larger, and your unarmed attacks actually do lethal damage. On the other end of the scale, you have the Urhan, which is the wolf form, the thing that werewolves can lose themselves in, becoming faster, able to smell better, able to just be more natural. Up from that is Urshel, the dire wolf. They are huge. Um, they are fast. They are dangerous. Even if they don't kill the spirit or their prey, whatever it may be, they are horrendously deadly at harrying. The next form is that of Garu, the Wolfman, halfway between all of them. They are they are the form that a werewolf takes when they want something to die. Nothing survives Gauru. Well, nothing without exceptional power survives Gauru. They are terrible combatants, crushing everything before them. Stronger than any human could be, more deadly than any wolf. They are hilariously brutal. These 5 forms for werewolves are kind of their bread and butter. If a werewolf has nothing else, they can default to shifting form. But they also get access to gifts and rights from the spirit world. Gifts are the gifts um, of the spirits. They are carved into the flesh of the werewolf. They aren't magic spells. They, as soon as they become a part of the werewolf, they are the werewolf. One werewolf's gift of rage may be mechanically identical to another's, but instead of pumping up huge, massive muscles, they become leaner, tighter, as the tendons are the ones that are carrying the strength, and the bones harden. And that is just representative of the spirits they may come from. A spirit of wrath may have the pumping up qualities that give you the gift of rage. Or maybe you took it from a spirit of the earth that was angry that it had been that it had been stained by the actions of humans. That is These gifts are mystical, they are magical, they are developments of a spirit's ability within a person, within a werewolf. Some of those come from the moon, say um, the Rahu moon gift. Let's just crack it open. Full moon gift. Rahu is a moon-forged killer. This facet brings deadly instincts to the fore. For a scene with a reflexive expenditure of essence, so something just like that, they gain 8 again on brawl and weaponry dice pools for the duration of the scene. They are warriors. The moon gifts reinforce that. They are gifted by Luna, and they are solipsistic in their structure. Rahu's moon gifts always make them a better warrior, because that's what Luna made them to be, and you should be grateful for that. However, you also have the shadow gifts, and we'll go to, because we've been talking about it, the gift of rage. These come in 5 different forms, 5 different facets, which are reflective of the renown that werewolves have. This is cunning, the cheeky sort of larrikin nature of rage, where you are using it in a way that you didn't expect to. More importantly, you're using it against someone. Um, you have glory, which is generally very powerful, very expensive, but very straight down the line. Um, glory makes you immortal, invincible, in this case. Perfected Rage, Honor, allows you to spend more time in Gauru. Honor is about honouring the oath of the moon, about honouring your word, about honouring your ancestry in this case. And you can hold Gauru for additional turns equal to Honour. Purity. You're a werewolf. Purity reminds you of that. You add your Purity Renown to the damage you inflict with a brawl attack. You're going to kill something with this. And then there's Wisdom. Wisdom gifts require planning and require setting up, but they are fantastic. Because what they do is they give the conditions for the hunt to be completed, rather than Purity, which more likely completes the hunt, or Glory, which violently completes the hunt. This enables someone, when inflicting lunacy, to inflict the Berserk condition, causing their prey to attack whoever is near them. Hello, kitten. You are filled with rage because you're not getting enough pats, aren't you? Spirit gifts are powerful tools in the arsenal of a werewolf. If you want to think straight down the line, Purity is often the most simple and Wisdom the most complex. Additionally, all werewolves gain rights. Yes, hello, cat. Oh, gosh, come on. There you go. Put my legs together just for you. Rights are long form rituals that grant long-form benefits. These can be simple things like the rite of Siskerdar, which initiates a hunt, a sacred hunt. It can be the rite of hunting ground, which claims something as your territory. And because of that claiming, you are afforded some benefits. You are afforded, I think, a +1 to politics, dice rolls, and that sort of thing. Rights are another tool in the belt of the werewolves. They can call, and Ithar often lead these, but they call upon the powers of spirits to turn the spirits for or against something. They are fantastically powerful, and rights include one particular thing, which is fetish and talon crafting rights. Now, fetishes aren't just leather whips and chains, or whatever else you have going on. No judgment. Fetishes are, in the traditional sense, they are a thing that has a spiritual reflection going on with it. They're an item that calls upon some element of the world. In the case of werewolf, what they're calling upon, more often than not, is the spirit that they've bound within the fetish. This is done through the fetish crafting rite and has additional elements that are a part of it. But fundamentally, what fetishes do is enable a werewolf to maximize what they are good at, or what the spirit is willing to bless them with. Oh gosh, cat hair everywhere. Yes, your cat hair is everywhere. Talons are single-use items. They're generally very powerful. They have effects that last for a scene, whatever that means, and that enables them to be very useful. However, fetishes are long-term items that have stored a spirit in them. I'm trying to think of a good analogy. Actually, if you've seen Vox Machina, the sword that Grog picks up could be a fetish sword, a sword that is bound with the spirit of blood. And each point of lethal damage it does, the next turn, you add that to its next attack. That would be a very powerful fetish, probably rank 4 or 5, and that rank is representative of the spirit that is bound within it, not the fetish itself. It is the spirit that gives the item the power. If you have a multi-tool with a rank 1 spirit in it, maybe you are able to have a +1 or +2 to the total effect of the multi-tool. If that multi-tool had a +5 spirit, maybe you can just create a simple object with 10 to 15 minutes work. Or the multi-tool always counts as the tool that you need. That is the sort of thing we're looking at with these. They are another feather in the cap of werewolves. Fetishes, talons, rights, and gifts are all sorts of very powerful things that benefit werewolves. So what we'll do next week is we'll use a bit of this knowledge to start adding werewolves into our setting document for this little game for Tasmania. In this game that we've been talking about, it is we're looking at primarily hunter and deviant antagonism. But part of the reason I want to throw werewolf into the mix as a potential playable group is werewolves often have mixed and conflicting goals to other splats. Vampires may wish to ensure, maybe if you're part of the circle of the crone, the kind of the pagan magic using group of vampires, you want to ensure that blood is around you at all times. But when a werewolf looks at that, they know that the amount of blood produces a lot of blood spirits. Blood spirits will wish to create more and more bloodshed so they can gain more essence and more resonance. What will that mean for the shadow, for the Hissil? And if they break across the gauntlet, what will that mean for everybody there? Changelings are often trying to escape powerful and dangerous entities. What happens if that becomes part of the werewolf idea of the world? What if these big, bad, nasty spirits are just things to be used, and when there are changelings in the territory, spirits of dream are much more potent, so werewolves want to cultivate some element of changelings being taken and changelings coming back, because fetishes of the dream are just so powerful in their hands. These sorts of things are the sorts of things that make werewolves very fun to run in multi-splat games, but also very difficult to run, as we'll kind of go through. And that's about it for tonight, for this morning. Thank you very much for joining me, all of you who did. I hope you're going well. In a fortnight's time, we will jump back together and we'll do a bit more world creation within Werewolf. Probably looking at the spirit world and how to build that out a little bit more. If you stick around, we're going to go raid Occultist Anonymous with their new game. Let's take a look. What are we looking at with Occultists? I'm not seeing anything. It looks like they're going to Geist, the Sin Eater, which Geist is super good, and we may jump to it later on. But thank you very much for kicking around. I appreciate you being here, and see you later.